Good evening. If the council would come to order, please. We'll be led in opening prayer by President Pro Tem Joe DeLucia, please.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Amen. Alderman Grant Neuendorf, please, with our pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Testing, 1, 2. There we go. Good evening, everyone. This evening, we're going to start with what we often refer to as the State of the City Address. So here we go. Good evening. My statement tonight is to express my gratitude to the people of Norwich as they continue to amaze me with their willingness to advance the interests of our city. Over the past 3 years, they have embraced ideas offered to them at times of referendum, by supporting issues concerning upgrades to public safety communication systems, replacement of aging fire apparatus, and just this past November, supporting the $385 million school bond. I believe that they did so because they understand that a city that invests in itself is a place that all of us will want to call home. With 4 new elementary schools, in the long run, they are going to be more cost-effective, deliver stronger educational quality throughout our educational system, and this will benefit our students, and combined with our world-renowned Norwich Free Academy, I believe will position the city of Norwich to rise among the ranks of cities and towns across this state for people who are looking for a place for families to buy homes and for businesses to invest. In addition to these solid investments, we're embarking on a long-awaited upgrade of our sanitary sewer complex, which will improve the water quality of the harbor and waterfront of our city. This is being made possible because of the steadfast work of Norwich Public Utilities Commission and staff led by General Manager Chris LaRose, while working in partnership with state and federal branches of government. In conjunction with these, we are watching major investments occur in the city. The Hale Mill continues to be developed into a world-class hotel. Panema Mills has further expansion taking place, which will add an additional 145 units of blended top-quality housing. When finished, 460 units of housing will have been developed while preserving an historic building complex not found anywhere else in the world. Westledge Development is actively finishing their 4th building complex, and when completed, will offer 120 market-rate housings of 2- and 3-bedroom units. An additional Gebby investment continues to grow in Tafel along Route 97, just down the road from Panema Mills, offering high-quality units as well. In downtown Norwich, 7791 Main Street continues the installation of 42 market-rate apartments. The Reed and Hughes, which recently received a $550,000 grant to complete the financing package for brownfield remediation, and is now owned by the private investment of LLC led by David McCarthy, who is the principal owner of O'Regan Hotel. The former YMCA redevelopment continues with the Madden Construction Group benefiting from a $2 million state grant. Across the street, the former Elks Home shows activity once again. An expansion of our own These Guys Brewery on Church Street is shaping up rapidly. 2 of these projects directly benefit with investments from American Rescue dollars. All of these project developments are happening under the leadership of Mr. Kevin Brown, President of the Norwich Community Development Corporation. A year ago, I reported on the efforts to locate Solar Seal Architecture Glass LLC to Norwich. Tonight, I am pleased to report that they're now working under the new name Navara and are fully operating. In addition to the approximate 70 to 100 eventual jobs, they are establishing themselves as one of our top 3 utility users. I wish to share with you an update also concerning Route 82 on the west side. John Solomon, Pat McLaughlin, Brian Long, and I participated in a Zoom meeting with state officials, and we are being told that we can expect a revised design during the month of April. What can be shared is that the number 6 will no longer be included in future discussions, and that when they achieve this benchmark, we can expect public discussions to follow, projected for September of this year. Tonight, our city manager will present further investment opportunities with American Rescue funding. I look forward to his leadership and guidance and encourage all members of council to remember that his office has the final say in all expenditures, and that this authority is found in the federal law concerning ARP funding. I ask everyone to join with me as I enter my 10th year as a mayor of Norwich and recognize that a journey that began with hope and expectations is charting a clear and stronger path towards economic recovery here locally. This is only possible when we work as one team. Finally, I wish to express my thanks to my fellow city council members, both past and present. Together, we supported these economic opportunities. This demonstrates what a united effort can achieve. Thank you and good night.
Citizen comment, General?
Thank you. I declare citizen comment general to be open at this time. Anyone wishing to address the council on issues of importance, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. The sign-up sheet was placed out. No one signed up. However, I invite anyone here who wishes to share their concerns at this time. Just please raise your hand and you will be recognized. Please, Ms. Filbert.
Joanne Philbrick, Norwich Town. Like so many other people, I made New Year's resolutions. One of my New Year's resolutions, is this on?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. One of my New Year's resolutions was to stay away from all things Norwich politically. But like most New Year's resolutions, didn't last very long. So in that vein, I would like to talk tonight about several things that, what I like to say, work my nerve. The first one is, Alderwoman Gould is not here, so we're back to the same deja vu all over again.
Excuse me, Alderman Gould is on the phone. This is a hybrid meeting.
Well, you didn't say that.
I apologize, it's listed on the agenda at the front.
Well, it says hybrid, but it doesn't say that Alderman Gould was participating via a hybrid. Okay. All right, so that makes me feel better. Second of all, etched in gold on the sign outside, it says Norwich City Hall, hours 8:30 to 4:30. I came here Friday afternoon at 3:30. The city manager's office was closed. The human resource office was closed. The mayor's office was closed. So I went down to the finance office because I wanted to see how the chain of command goes in case there was an emergency. And I sort of knew the answer to the question, but I wanted to hear it from them. Josh is the next in command, but Josh was also on his way out the door. If the city is open from 8:30 to 4:30, I believe it is a responsibility of management, regardless of Benedict Arnold or whatever, that someone should be available in an office. Otherwise, the city manager's office did not have a note on the door. The human resources office didn't have a note on the door. The mayor's office did. I'm going to run out of time. 3 minutes is not enough time. I would like to know who posted this flyer that's circulating. It's on the desk downstairs, because I take issue with one statement. We paid for this study, Envision Norwich 360. Comes out of the ARPA money. It says, we need input from a wide range of residents, blah, 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 or the same voices will be heard over and over again, leading to fewer opportunities for real change. You don't want to hear what I have to say? I don't really care. I'm a taxpayer. I find this offensive. You don't want to hear from the same old people? You know why you don't have any new people? Because they know what happened to the same old people. Thank you. It's called truth, trust, and
Thank you.
transparency.
Would anyone else like to speak to us under general citizen comment at this time, please? Would anyone else like to speak to us under general citizen comment? Would anyone else like to speak to us under, please.
Kevin Brown, President of NCDC 66 Franklin. Excuse me. Just to follow on from Ms. Silberg's comments, while probably a poor choice of words, I just want to make it clear that it wasn't directed in the sense that you took it. The point, though, was that, as we all know, if we're truthful and honest with ourselves, the same few people come and express their concerns, and that's great and to be expected. But the intent of that statement was not to say we don't want to hear from those voices anymore. It was to say let's expand our aperture, let's open our aperture and have more voices. We currently have about 219 people registered on Envision 360 that are engaging in a proactive, positive discussion about the kinds of things that we need to make sure we're aware of as the city continues to move forward. And so if there was any belief or concern about exclusion, that was unintended, and I apologize for that, but that was not the intent. The intent was let's get more than the handful of folks that typically do take the time out to come here to be engaged in the conversation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, would anyone like to join us under general? Yes, sir, please.
I'm Harold Mechto from 365 Canterbury Turnpike. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but a couple of things. One thing irked me in particular at the last meeting. One of the council members spoke that they were representing what was best for Norwich. He didn't say his constituents, he said Norwich. And another thing with this American Rescue money, I don't have a problem with spending money, but is it sustainable after that money is gone, whatever programs are started? That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, sir. Again, anyone else like to speak to us under general citizen comment at this time? Again, anyone else like to speak to us under general citizen comment at this time? Third and final request is anyone else like to share any information that you feel needs to come to our attention at this time, please? Seeing no one else, I then declare that closed, and thank you all.
Second reading and possible action on the below ordinance previously presented. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Norwich, creating business master plan district.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to bring this forward for discussion. Is there such a motion? Alderman Singh. Thank you, Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion, please? President Pro Tem, please.
Thank you. I have a brief statement. When I was first shown the concept for Business Park North, I was encouraged that we might have an opportunity to really grow the grand list in a meaningful way. At that time, I never envisioned buildings so close to the neighboring properties or that there would be development between Canterbury Turnpike and Route 97, or that there would be 60 to 80-foot tall buildings on the site. I pictured large buildings, but clustered along the center spine of the property between Canterbury Turnpike and Lawler Lane, mostly visible only from the highway. The city needs new revenue. There is no argument about that. But the elements of this overlay, in my opinion, are too great of an impact on the surrounding neighborhood. And the potential for grants is not reason enough to approve it. I applaud the effort and the work that has gone in to this overlay. And I encourage the applicant to hear my objections and go back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further comment at this time? Alderman Singh, please.
I would like to ask a question, if
Certainly,
it's
please.
possible. Okay. I would like to call Kevin Brown.
Yes, please. Mr.
Thank
Brown,
you.
please.
Thank you. So thank you very much, and I see there's a lot of work that has been done by NCDC, so I just want to recognize that work which has already been done, and it takes a while to do that kind of work. To present any kind of application, it takes a lot of time, effort, resources. My quick question is, so we did get some kind of $500,000 for designing purposes from the state. Have we used any of that money on designing purposes yet?
No, Alderman, we have not. We still have a financial assistance plan, excuse me, that has to be structured between ourselves and the Department of Economic and Community Development before we can be in receipt and then spend those monies. And part of that plan, part of that financial assistance plan that we structure has to outline the outlays for that money.
So there is still opportunity to kind of, like Alderwoman, President Pro Tem said, go back on drawing board. and maybe-
Excuse me?
Excuse me, the public
Corporate
hearing is
counsel.
over, so it's really the council debate at this point.
Okay.
So-
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there further discussion at this time from the council members? Alderman Grant Neuendorf, please.
I'm in support of this ordinance. The city needs economic growth. This is a great opportunity for the city. The question was asked, where would it be built if not on a Canterbury Turnpike? NCDC has put in a lot of time and effort. I can't imagine this project being built anywhere else. I mean, I know we've heard from a lot of people from that area, and we've heard that they were obviously discouraged, but the reason why it's being built there is there's space and there's safety there. There's a lot of businesses in downtown and in these local areas that I don't want to say are struggling, but are worrisome about their businesses. For a place like this, the growth, I think it's too good of an opportunity to pass up. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further comment? And I would ask people to consider that our discussion should fall within the parameters of the Plan of Conservation and Development, and is this actually appropriate or not, and does it comply with the POCD? That answer was already answered unequivocally. So I invite further discussion. Thank you.
So I just want to say, I personally believe there's a lot more that we can do to revise this plan and make it better, which can sink in with the neighborhood better. Of course, we need to worry about, increasing grant list, and I understand that, very well, but at the same time, we cannot destroy the neighborhoods as well. So I think there is still opportunity to come up with better plan on this particular Business Park North. So I will not
be supporting this application as presented at this particular time.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I will speak briefly. I'll try to be brief. This is a request to restrict the current zoning of this whole tract of land. Currently, a business park can be located there right now. That decision was made several years ago by a prior council. This actually takes into account concerns that the residents asked that we consider. If you do not accept this amendment to the zoning regulations as they're now structured, you have a greater risk of development there without the controls that this actual ordinance offers. And the way it was amended by us at the last council meeting, we adopted additional restrictions for the residents' concerns, including greater buffer zones. If this is rejected, it will go back to 20 feet, whereas as amended right now before us, it's at 50 feet. It would allow for taller buildings near residential areas if this is not adopted. We restricted those 2 weeks ago by adopting the amendment and then moved it for postponement till tonight's meeting. So I hear the concerns. They're valuable, but we're not approving anything that is waiting in the wings. There's nothing waiting in the wings, so to speak. This is a master plan. And what it does is it provides tighter restrictions and limitations on any developer who goes there. If you reject this now, other than the 6 items that are not permitted there, like a recycling or reclamation facility for car husks, as they were presented to us many years ago, there's limited or no restrictions on anything. An application can be filed, and if it complies with the current zone, which is planning and development with commercial, it will go. Has to be approved. This is the one time to restrict further this development, which is what the residents of the neighborhood asked for. You know, if you wish to offer amendments later on, absolutely. But to just reject this out of hand ignores the realities. The city has worked on this for 3 years. Members of this current council actually voted for the current zoning, which is wide open right now. They're sitting here. This ordinance actually restricts development and how it takes place. You know, we have a grant application before the federal government. 2 members of this council signed that grant application requesting the federal funds. And I point out, if we don't get the federal funds, this will never be built, regardless of what the master plan says. It's just not going to happen. This is not building an iPark. This is further restricting what could be built there. And I would think you'd want to protect the residents. Your actions tonight are not doing that. That's just the reality. City has invested over $1.7 million into this plan over 3 years. What happens to that investment? That's taxpayer money that you're just casting aside. If you want to vote this down, you better come back real quick with some amendments to try to protect that investment. We owe the taxpayers that. I, for one, saw this as a way of growing the grand list, which is the very job of the mayor, is to improve the tax base, the tax status of our residents. God knows the taxes on our homes are high enough in businesses. This is a way to address that. And I must also add, you know, the voters, as I said in the statement earlier, have stood with us as we've sought to invest in ourselves, including that school project that's out there. If we don't have grand list growth, how are we going to pay for those schools? The taxpayers are going to end up with up to a $6 million increase on your properties. when that's fully enforced. It'll be phased in over 30 years, that cost. But that's based on this grand list, not one that can grow and help absorb those costs. Nothing should be considered in a vacuum. When I started to work on this project, when I was asked to over 3 years ago, I knew we were looking at new schools, and we needed them. And thank God the voters stood with us and said, yes. How do you pay for them if you don't grow the grand list? Dump it on the taxpayers now? That's a burden that they should not have to bear. If we can't realize that this is simply a master plan for development, nobody can go in there without going right back to the Commission on the City Plan. They have to file their MyLars at the Planning Department. They have to get their inland wetlands permits. All of that is a public process. We have checks and balances. They're here. Nothing can go there without those approvals. Nothing. Rejection of this plan tonight means you could see an 80-foot building on top of residential neighborhoods. The amended ordinance before us now says you can't do that. It says you can't encroach near property lines within 20 feet. It says 50 feet tonight. But you reject that expanded border, that buffer zone, by voting no. I just want you to have all the facts. And if someone in the council wants to dispute what I've said, I invite you to do so. But that's the amendment we added on to this, because NCDC listened to the residents and asked for changes that they were asking for. And that's really important, that we listen to them. But we also have an obligation to lower the cost of living in this town. This is a way through long-term planning to do that. So that's, and I'm sorry that wasn't short, but anyway, is there further comment? Yes, President Pro Tem.
I'll say I don't wish to dispute your points, Mayor, nor argue with you on the floor of the council. I would just say to you that if I was a resident in that neighborhood, and I can say I once was a resident in that neighborhood, it wouldn't matter to me if an 80-foot building was 20 feet away from my property line or 50 feet away from my property line. So what I'm saying is that I understand the situation as you described it completely, but this plan, this overlay plan, is not strong enough to protect that neighborhood while accomplishing its goal of bringing new development and new grand list properties into the city. That's really the objection, at least the one that I have at this point. I would also say that, excuse me, I would also say to your point about paying the bills into the future and controlling you and having this overlay as a restriction and a control, I would say that it's not restrictive enough. And I would never speak ill about the Commission on the City Plan, but I don't think that that is a strong enough check and balance against what potentially could be built on the site with or without the overlay. I would like, and I don't know if I'm out of order according to into Corporation Council by saying what I'm about to say, but as I said, I understand the risks. I don't believe that the overlay was restrictive enough. And that is really my greatest concern, stated in one sentence.
Thank you. I will respond briefly. You have the right to amend it, even tonight, which would then start the process all over again. We go back to a public hearing process.
I don't believe we have that kind of
Well,
latitude with the 60-day deadline on the...
65-day, actually.
With a 65-day deadline. And frankly, and I know am I overstepping?
I'm sorry, I'm seeing one head saying yes, another one saying no back there, of part of the applicants. So, Corporate Counsel, could you please clarify that for us?
I don't have the timeline, so I don't know how to answer it, but I think you can ask.
Our city planner's here.
city
We
planner.
could,
65 days would be,
Okay, so the public hearing is closed on the application, so you have 65 days to make a decision. You don't have to make a decision this evening. You can table that and make it another night. You cannot get any testimony from anyone, including from the applicant, so there can't be only discussion within yourselves. You cannot reopen the public hearing or make an amendment to the application at this point and open another public hearing, because you closed the public hearing. So that's kind of where we're at.
so then the time to amend was when we first closed the public hearing, and at that moment, just as the applicant asked us to amend it, all of that should have taken place at that meeting?
I think that, again, I'm not the corporate counsel. I mean, conditions can always be made to approvals. However, conditions that weren't discussed with the public or the opportunity to have comments on them are not always, the best things. I would advise to that. The public got to see those amendments that you were considering. So now at this point, if you bring up other amendments and try to restrict it further, there's no opportunity for the public to comment on that, would I say.
If I may, if amendments were offered, I thought it then would trigger a whole new public process
Well, I think that we heard from Betsy.
based on the degree of amendment. Some were treated as administrative and not major. Others are treated as major amendments, which then tells us we must start the process all over again.
So again, Betsy's not here, but Roseanne can, I think what she'd said before, when you make amendments to the ordinance, it has to be re-advertised. It doesn't mean it needs to be another public hearing,
Correct.
but you need to, this is according to the clerk's office, which is not statutory. This is the process in our charter, how to do it. So, it's kind of where we're at. We have two processes here, because we have the charter process, which is a little different than the statutory process, because we're a special act community, so we're a little different, but we try to follow mostly what the statute does as far as for zoning amendments to the regulations into the maps. I don't know if that answers your question. I'm just trying to answer generally and not specific about the application itself.
Can you
Michael,
share comment on the statement I made? Administrative change versus major change to an ordinance?
I think I'd refer to Mike on that, the attorney.
I think a major change is anything that's significant. An administrative change would be very modest in this case. The problem is that the process we use by the charter is the ordinance adoption process. That calls for a certain set of approaches. The state statute treats it somewhat differently, so that if you were to adopt this tonight or turn it down tonight, that's the charter process. If you wanted to change the name of a street, or, I mean, something modest in the ordinance, you probably could, but if you're going to change something such as buffer or height or whatever else, that's significant. So I think you'd have to avoid that if it were, I can't think offhand what something administrative would be in this particular plan and ordinance, but if you change the name, perhaps, something like that.
Yeah, I think that it's, again, you could table it and not take action on it, but you can't discuss amongst yourself unless you're during this process and, no more testimony and you can't get any more information on it. So you're kind of, held to making that decision in the future, so without more additional information. So, Mike, do you agree?
I agree.
Is that clarified for you, Mayor?
Mostly. I remember a conversation well over a month ago where we discussed major and minor.
And that was more about coming back, I think, if they made major changes to the plan itself, if the master plan was adopted, and then it had to, if there was something that was minor, it may not come back to the council, but if it was something significant, say the road location had to be changed or something else, and then it would come back to the council, because that would be a big change in the master plan if it got approved. But something small would not necessarily, like if the building moved a few feet within the property, or, you know, was still within the wetlands buffer, but further away and not closer, things like that doesn't necessarily go back to the commission or to the council. So I think that you have what you have before you to make a decision on, you know, from a typical zoning process. And, you know, it's a little different. We all understand the master plan zoning is different because it's actually a plan that you're looking at, not just a bubble on the outside. It's landing on a site, and it has somewhat design elements to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
At this time, is there any further comment?
Mayor Nystrom?
Please, Alderman Gould.
Thank you. It's a little difficult to hear, but I appreciate the efforts you've made to get me a telephone at least. Is it possible to postpone voting on this ordinance this evening to address the concerns of the council, such as buffers, setback requirements, etc.? Would the applicant be able to make changes to address those concerns, and would they be able to submit a new plan to us at a later date?
Michael. Corporate counsel will respond.
I would think you could amend it again if that's what you're asking. Now, whether you do that tonight or whatever, but the problem is you've got time constraints on the overall project, so you can't postpone it indefinitely. But if you bring it back in 2 weeks, let's say, you could vote on it then. If it's amended, then it has to be re-advertised. So you're going to be running closer to a time frame, and the time frame is placed by statute. It's not in our charter. The charter basically requires the commission and the city plan to issue an opinion to the city within 65 days, but there's no penalty for them not doing it because the council has never adopted an ordinance to that effect. So,
Alderman Gould, you have the microphone.
Well, I'm sorry to say that it was a little difficult to hear corporate counsel's answer, but I believe he said that we still had time and that we may have to re-advertise this in the newspaper if we made any changes.
That is understood. That was done most recently in the last 2 weeks. We did follow that process because it was amended at the last meeting. May I ask a question? Because we're not supposed to take new testimony. The date, the 65 date, when does that end? Is it based on the submission of the Commission on City Plans letter to us, or at the time when the first public hearing was held?
No, the close of the public hearing. So you
Close of the public hearing.
You closed the public hearing at your
Oh.
last meeting, so 65 days from that date.
Approximately March 8th, somewhere
Okay,
around March 8th.
March 8th. I would then put that question to council. Is there a mind of us to do that, postpone that, knowing that the deadline is March 8th?
Or
and-
thereabouts.
Thereabouts, and try to work out further issues?
I'll make that.
Alderman Grant, Newendorf? Are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion that we postpone this until for further action.
So,
You need a date, time certain in your motion. The first meeting in March?
That sounds good.
first meeting in March is the 6th.
6th. It would have to be, if we make changes, we need 2 weeks to advertise. You'd have to back further up the last meeting in February, whatever that is.
21st.
February 6th is the first meeting in February, and February
Or they on the 20th, so it'd be the 21st.
Right, exactly.
So is your motion then to postpone till February 21st to further address issues, sir?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by
I'll
Alderman.
second the motion.
Thank you. Alderman Singh seconded it. Thank you, though, Alderman Gould. Is there further discussion on the motion to postpone to the second meeting in February the 21st? If not, we have a roll call, please, on the motion to postpone.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes. The motion to postpone is adopted 6-0 vote. Thank you all. Thank everyone for patience.
Public hearing, an ordinance providing for the abatement of real estate taxes on real property improvements for historic redevelopment and/or reuse of the Panema South Mill. Panema Mill Building Number 2, consisting of two separate structures identified as 555 Norwich Avenue and 575 Norwich Avenue. We have a letter from Commission on City Plan. The Honorable Mayor and all the persons of the Council of the City of Norwich reference an ordinance relative to the abatement of taxes and reduction of building permit fees for South Mill at Panema, AKA 555 and 575 Norwich Avenue. The Commission on City Plan at the December 13th, 2022 hybrid regular meeting reviewed and discussed the above referenced referral. Seated were Frank Manfredi, Kathy Wazika, and Ella Miles. After careful consideration, the Commission voted unanimously to forward a favorable recommendation stating that the ordinance is in accordance with recommendations of the Plan of Conservation and Development related to mill development and enhancement and the preservation of historic assets. Frank Manfredi, Chairman.
Thank you. At this time, I declare the public hearing to be open and would ask if anyone is here to speak in favor of this ordinance. Yeah, it was our intent, because our city clerk read the letter in response from the Commission on City Plan, that be incorporated as part of the public hearing. Thank you. Again, is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the ordinance at this time? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the ordinance at this time? Seeing no one, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the ordinance at this time? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the ordinance at this time? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this ordinance at this time? Seeing no one else, thank you. I declare the public hearing closed.
Second reading and possible action on the above ordinance previously presented. An ordinance providing for the abatement of real estate taxes on real property improvements for the historic redevelopment and/or reuse of the Panema South Mill, Panema Mill Building Number 2, consisting of two separate structures identified as 555 Norwich Avenue and 575 Norwich Avenue.
Thank you. Ask for a motion, please, to bring this to the floor. Alderwoman Berto, second. Alderman Grant Neuendorf. Is there discussion? President Pro Tem, please.
I'm just happy to see these mill buildings that stood empty and underutilized for most of my life be repurposed and brought back into vibrancy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? I will only add that I'm extremely grateful for the perseverance of the developer who has been doing this really as a labor of love, in my opinion. He started with building one. He invested over $9 million of his own money to clean that building up with no help from any government level. And he continues to work to, again, put millions of dollars of investment in our city and save those historic structures while providing beautiful housing for residents of all incomes, I mind you. This is a blended development. People of low income have access to the same quality housing as someone at market rate levels or even higher who choose to live there. It's a great story about preserving the mills and investing in our community and providing safe housing for people of all income levels. So thank you all, and please thank the developer. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes. Thank you. The ordinance is adopted on a 6-0 vote. Thank you all.
So petition and communication, report from the Commission on City Plan of the City of Norwich pursuant to Section 8-24 of the General Statutes and Chapter 15, Section 4 of the Norwich City Charter regarding an ordinance providing for the abatement of real estate taxes on real property improvements for historic redevelopment and/or reuse of the Panema Mill, South Mill, Panema Mill Building Number 2, consisting of two separate structures identified as 555 Norwich Avenue and 575 Norwich Avenue.
Thank you. Accept a motion, please, for this to be formally received by the council this time. Alderwoman Berto, second, please. Alderman Grant Neuendorf. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes. The motion is passed 6-0 for the record.
City Manager's report?
Can you hear me? Is the mic on? Good.
Yep.
Okay. Will you turn this on? No, I'm going to start with this.
John, do you want the lights up front?
No, I'm good.
Kathy's there. Other ones. Yeah.
Okay. That's the, let's see if this works now, this part. I'm going to change it from here if it works. It works. Okay. I didn't rehearse today for the first time of all these, and of course, when you don't rehearse, something goes wrong, so. But we've righted it, so we're okay now. Total amount of funds received, ARPA, is $28,838,730. And ARPA was pretty unique because you got the funds before you actually had spent the money. So you take those funds and then you figure out well, what's applicable in the grants and you go forward. So that's much different than most grants that we apply for. The second thing, you didn't have to apply for this grant that was granted under federal law. So we're talking about what's left of the 28.8, and obligated to date is 27,157. I'm not sure if this is a word, but I like it anyway. De-obligated and recaptured 466,009. That's in Resolution 4. And so with the recapture and the difference between these two, the proposed available funds at this point are $2,147,719. This doesn't include at this point the $500,000 that was approved to be spent on the arts at the last meeting. That's already baked into the obligated to date figure. New request for funding, it's Resolution 5, which you should have, is 366. Let's look first at the proposed changes, and we'll just go through them very briefly. The first change is to move the amount of 192, I'm wrong here, let me get back. Move the amount of human services staffing for the third caseworker. There are already 2 persons in there, and they're already covered. However, the plan is to keep all the ARPA payroll together in one project. So this is really an accounting adjustment. And therefore, it's 192, and it goes to ARPA 8. Each one of these programs, again, fits into a criteria for what you're going to spend the money on, a general review. ARP 12, this project is not going to be moving forward at this point. It's the splash pad. Department entity now is Public Works. The request was to move the tennis courts to be used for construction of the parking lot at the tennis courts, and I've recommended that to go to that entity. Affordable housing project, this is a project in conjunction with Habitat for Humanity. The total project consisted of 360 in new homes, and we've spent that part of the money, or we're about to spend that part of the money, and that's for 10 homes in the area of where they were being built. I think they had a ribbon cutting maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Then there's $840,000 of rehab money. That's been slow to go forward. And some of the problems is that the houses that Habitat wants to renovate are too large for their criteria. They look for compact homes that their future residents could afford. And they don't need larger old Victorian homes to renovate. And a lot of the homes that we have obtained are not the criteria for them. So that's slowed it down quite a bit. So we've left about half in there, but we propose to move $400,000 to available funds, and I recommend that. Mohegan Park Fitness Course, this is easy. This is, that project's been complete, and there's $4,300 left. Jennings Field Lighting, this project's also complete, and there's about 16,300 left. Hale Mill, we've had the exchange of funds with them, and we had budgeted approximately $400,000 for Hale Mill. We've spent about a little over $350. Oops. So that $50,485 is available to move forward. It has been suggested, and we haven't specified it yet, that it either could go towards Yale Urban Study or Norwich Revitalization Program, a continuation of what we're doing now. That hasn't actually been decided particularly at this point. And we had 7 Lucas devices. The Lucas device is the pulmonary resuscitation that's automated, so it keeps the heart moving even when you can't do it manually. And if you have seen it done, you know that it's very exhausting and needs to be done until you get to the hospital where they can do other means. So this allows you to have a mechanical device to do it, and it is a lifesaver because it's very difficult to sustain that type of effort for the amount of time it takes to get somebody to the hospital. Human Services Manager, this is just a change in title. Okay, now proposed changes to obligated funds. The security camera system request overhaul for the city buildings, IT department. They requested $150,000. At this point, I'm not funding it. I'm not recommending funding it. Second is the Slater roof. They have asked for additional monies of about $120,000. As you recall, we've already have funded the Slater roof for 500. 5, yeah, okay, thank you. Transportation assistance for seniors. This is a small amount. It's from Human Services. They requested $30,000. I've approved $30,000. That will allow for more transportation opportunities for seniors, especially on the weekends, which we don't do that much right now because of the lack of funding. And there's a lot of things that seniors want to do on the weekends that we haven't been able to do. So this is a great addition to their program. These are 2 small items at Otis Library. They total $18,000, one for a self-checkout unit, and then to fund citizen classes, $8,000, so totally $18,000. And I have recommended those. This is the Katie Blair House Replacement Windows Program and Supplies. This is from Safe Futures. They requested $38,000, and I recommended that we fund this. Armored Rescue Vehicle. As you know, we have a rescue vehicle that we haven't done any renovations on yet. It's in the Public Works garage at this point. We want to go in a new direction and not utilize the larger vehicle that we have. You can get a smaller vehicle that doesn't have the capacity of the MRAP that we have, but it's a little more mobile and a little less imposing looking. The MRAP is quite a large vehicle. The request was $350,000, but at this point, I did not fund it out of the city manager recommendations. It might be requested under the regular budget, we'll have to see where the numbers come in at that point. Little Plains Park fence repairs. Little Plains is the wonderful park right up the street from here on Broadway, and it's that terrific wrought iron fence that surrounds the park. You probably noticed that it's in very big disrepair. It needs a lot of work, and it's very expensive to do. With inflation and everything, we think we're going to need more money. So the $50,000 will be able to complete the project, and that will be a big asset to that neighborhood. It'll be a bright color, no longer a fading metal color. NCDC, at this point, I have not funded a resolution for additional marketing specialists. We might be able to take a look at that later. And Habitat Humanity also put in for an additional 200, but because they hadn't digested their original money, I didn't see a need at this point to supplement what they were asking for, so it's recommended at not being funded. So the total request for new projects, the revised from Resolution 10 is $1,431,000. Total that the city manager recommended was $366,000. Additional requests. We had a revenue replacement in the general fund budget last year of fiscal 22-23 of about $1.5 million. We want to phase that down to $1 million this year, and then probably the following year we'll have phased it out. But this gives us not such a steep fall line, so it'll be more gradual. The second is a proposal to fund Squad A pumper. That's the pumper that you see in the downtown that responds to all medicals plus fire calls. The estimated cost is $920. It's a tremendous amount of inflation, unfortunately, in fire apparatus. We've funded what actually was left in the difference between what's been obligated and what's left. So that's the amount. So it's still a little bit of a gap. This would go under the second ordinance that was approved by the council. That ordinance is still intact, and that would be the ordinance that would regulate how the various fire departments would access the money for a purchase. There's two committees that would be set up. They would include the fire chiefs of the particular department that was requesting the apparatus, and then mandated people on it, such as the purchasing agent, the town garage superintendent, a finance person, and then one other chief that's not affiliated with the request. And they will make the determination on the necessity or not of the project. Obviously, if they say no go, we have other apparatus that's got more of a priority, then that money would become available again to some other project. Then it goes to another committee that would write the specifications for the apparatus. Most of our apparatus are somewhat custom made because each fire headquarters and fire department has varying depth and height, so we can't just take a fire apparatus off the floor of a manufacturer. They have to fit within our fire departments, and some of our fire departments are pretty to fit something, it makes it a little more difficult. Okay, so proposed funds available, $2,000,001. Last new requests, numbers 1 through 11, 366. Additional new requests, numbers 12 and 13, 1,781,000. Funds available after recommendations would be 0. This would match this number. So that's why we get 0. Is that the end? This is not moving anymore. Okay, I'll take any questions now, or we can do it when you're doing the...
I'm going to start with a question. You referenced Resolution 5. There is no Resolution 5.
In your packet?
No.
Okay.
It stops at 4.
I'm having my expert take a look at that right now, Orla.
Nor is that listed on the agenda.
So she numbers them differently. She changed the numbers. It originally was 4 and 5, it's now 3 and 4.
Okay.
I mean, at the city clerk's office, change the numbers? Okay, I didn't notice that they were changed. Well, we'll try to figure that out, and if we can't do one because it's not listed in the agenda, then we'll just have to put it off for 2 weeks.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
For number 5, it's actually number 3.
Well, you might have an old one. Yeah, we still changed it. Yeah.
I have 3, but it does not contain items that he just outlined towards the end of his presentation at all.
No.
They're not listed. The $1 million or the 781.
They are not listed on the resolution.
No, they're not before us tonight.
I'm going to bring up the meeting agenda, so this is resolution number 3. And this is for the additional projects that John pointed out, totaling 360.
Correct.
The next resolution is the changes, which totals 466,908. And then the last page is the additional change.
Title change.
Yes. So the 1 million on the 781 are not on the resolution.
And they're not before us. I mean, the program continues on another number of years. They would, at this point, have to come back. Or...
Which ones aren't you say it weren't included?
The 1 million, which is the dollars to balance the budget,
Okay,
and the additional dollars for SWAT A.
that's not listed?
No.
Not listed on the resolution.
Okay. I thought they were. So you can't consider those tonight?
Will you be able to page through slides from up here?
I think so. Can you put the slide back on? Let me turn this off so I get feedback. Was there a particular slide did you want to go to? Freddie?
Slow down. Mayor, if I may?
Yes, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. So these are the existing, just, right, yes, changes, so this is the existing. So this is actually Resolution 4 that I'm focusing on right now, just so everybody knows where I am.
Yes, that's correct, resolution 4.
Yep, okay. So, item number 5.
The, in here on this,
You gotta close that blue box up top.
it was working before, wasn't it?
Too far away.
Was it working before, I thought?
Yeah. My clicker works from
Long.
here to the
As long as it's
city
sight
manager's
line.
office. 5. Here we go. So it's my understanding that although the Jennings Field lighting project may be complete, the tree trimming that was supposed to happen in conjunction with this project has not happened. So I don't know that that $16,000 is actually available.
Well, we got this information from Public Works Director, so,
Public Works Department, yes.
yeah, so,
So I would,
John, can you speak to the tree trimming? That was originally in the plan. The new lights are useless if the trees and the limbs are blocking their application.
we may be doing the tree trimming in-house, which doesn't need ARPA funds. Now that we have our fully functional bucket loader back.
okay. It's not in this resolution, but it's a question regarding the existing American Rescue Plan allocations. It was also, again, just my understanding that after we got done buying the parklets, that there was $67,000 remaining in that allocation. But I don't know if that's a fact or if that was somebody's misunderstanding. So that's my first question. And secondly, if there is money remaining, I think it should appear here, unless we're gonna buy more parklets.
You know, we are gonna buy more. Yeah, this was on the first phase.
Yep. Mr. Brown, please. Microphone, please.
Yes, Alderman DeLucia, you're correct. There is a remaining balance. I can't attest to it being exactly 67,000, but it's in that neighborhood. And at least from our standpoint as executors of those monies, the jury was still out as to what we might do going forward. The one thing I'd like to point out is that there was a life cycle operational cost that was considered in the diagram that remained forever on the wall in the city manager's office that recognized that there's an emplacement and tear down cost year over year for this thing. And while ARPA monies won't exist ad infinitum, over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, that isn't a de minimis cost and needs to be considered. So all 67K can't simply be swept away. There's got to be some consideration given to having some monies that Public Works can allocate against ARP, whatever number it is, category number it is, to do that work. And any other seasonal work that might come. We spruced those up with plantings. All of this adds up. I wouldn't want to do that math right here, right now, but I just caution 67K isn't available fully out of that account.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So we had it listed, but apparently it's not on one of the resolutions. That's correct, right, Orla?
The 67 for the...
No, not the 60, but the fire apparatus and the fund balance.
It is not on either of the resolutions.
Okay. So we can't act on that tonight. But that's the two ones that'll be on a request next week then.
They were additional requests that were discussed after the resolutions were posted on the agenda.
Could you please make that part of the public record, as we should, please?
These two additional requests were discussed after both of the resolutions were shared with the city clerk.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think I just have one more, Mayor. This is on the second resolution.
We don't have the
So this is the new rescue plan allocations.
Yes.
Item number 7. Yep, yes, it is, thank you. So, and this is tied to something that I said at the last meeting. I made somewhat of a vague, intentionally vague reference about the splash pad, $150,000, and if we needed to supplement a public safety item, and this is what I was referring to. But I see that we're using the $150,000 to complete the Armstrong Tennis Court project. We discussed this briefly at the Public Works Committee meeting today. There's $167,000, just for everybody's knowledge, so you know everything I know. There's about $167 or about $164, somewhere in that neighborhood, $1,000 left in the allocation for the Armstrong tennis courts, with the tennis courts and the fencing pretty much in place. To complete the project, we need to pave the parking lot, put some safety and security lighting in the parking lot, and that also includes a civil engineering exercise to catch that rainwater and some additional rainwater that comes off the hill that is plaguing Bliss Place and that whole Washington Street area. So this additional, is my understanding from the Director of Public Works, that this $150,000 combined with the $160 some odd thousand that's left will provide enough money to complete all those pieces of the project, which is great. So the question becomes, where does the $150,000 that the police department needs for all new firearms and training and ammo and so on and so forth, which is a clear need. It's not in question in my mind anyway, only speaking for myself. However, and maybe the chief would like to speak to this, and we've already allocated $820 some odd thousand to the police department, currently being used for overtime for existing staff because they are shorthanded. We all know that they're shorthanded by double-digit number of people. And then we know that the hiring process is going on. However, I would also say that it's unlikely that we're gonna find 12 new officers in the next year, maybe even 2 years, who knows? That's not, that's not an easy thing to do, to hire qualified people that you would want on your police department. So I understand that the overtime cost is going to continue. But out of an original allocation approved by this council of $915,000 and change, $821,000 of it roughly is left. I'm wondering why we can't use some of that 820 to at least defray some of this cost for the new firearms, if not all of it. The chief would like to address that. Mayor, it's your pleasure.
Chief Daley, please approach the microphone, please.
Can I just say, Pat, I want you to have the firearms, and I want you to be able to pay your staff for the overtime they're working.
And I'll add in, I think we want to hire the 12 officers. We just hired 3 the other day. Believe it or not, the numbers preliminarily for the April class, we're hoping we could be in the 3 range again. So 12 in this calendar year is possible if we do four groups of 3. That being said, because the timeline for the ARP is a little further out, we'll cover multiple fiscal years. So we do have to hire staff, we do have the overtime expenses, and then we use a lot of this for gun violence. So if we have a year like we had last year with multiple shootings, that's the wild card, and that could come up and screw everything up. So my long answer to your short question is, yes, you could, but it might not be prudent because then we're going to be circling back later saying, all right, now we're short in gaps, and we'll either have to take it out of this fiscal year's budget or next fiscal year's budget or curtail services. I would like to see it done this way, and then if we're not able to do it, we'll have money that is available at the end to be repurposed yet again. But right now, crystal ball is way too cloudy. I don't want to see us come up short, taking a big hit, especially when we get hiring going. The numbers are starting to turn around, so if we're able to continue to hire, we'll be at full staff. But again, it's usually about $100,000 an officer for a year.
And with the firearms, one question I forgot to ask you on Wednesday night was, if this were to move forward, how soon would you initiate the changeover?
We would change over immediately. We would start the purchasing process. Obviously, we go out to bid, and we have to follow all the purchasing guidelines. Our goal would be, so when we do our spring firearms, that we would transition then. So that is 5.5 months away. So it's a tight window for a project like this to order the equipment and the lead time, and hopefully there's no supply chain issues. But now is the time to do it because then it pushes it back into, horrible weather, and we're going to have to spend a full range day with the optical sights. Usually we spend a morning or an afternoon at the range. This will be a full day just to get used to the new sighting system on the firearms.
Okay. That's all I have for the chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Other questions of the city manager and his presentation at this time? Yes, Alderwoman Berto, please.
I just have a quick question. On Resolution 3, number 1, the security camera systems overhaul for the city buildings, the city manager recommended 0. I just wanted to know why.
The specifics, you wanted to know the specifics? I didn't hear that.
Yes, please.
You wanted the specifics of what the buildings would be?
Well, how many buildings would it be?
It's all city buildings.
And do you think it'd be a possibility just to, start in phases at least?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Do you think it could be a possibility to at least start in phases? Do, one building?
Most
one?
likely. I presume that I'm not talking on behalf of IT, but I would presume that they will start with City Hall.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me?
Yes.
And again, I understand you're in finance, IT is not here, but can you speak to the current condition of the existing cameras and their functioning ability?
I cannot.
Okay, because I know we have cameras in this building. They're strategically located at different floor levels, access and egress points, stuff like that, but okay.
I don't have that information. I only have the summary of the request. If you wish, I can have IT forward to the council some backup and details of that.
That would be very helpful, because we know this is a priority.
Okay, I'll have them do so tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
And thank you. Other members, questions
Nope,
of the city
I'm all set.
manager at this time?
I just have a quick
Alderman
one.
Singh.
Thank you. So thank you for presenting this. Will, I guess, public also get opportunity to look over this new allocations and stuff like we did last time with the,
Since it was only a small amount, I didn't put that in the schedule.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Seeing none, Thank you, John.
Okay. Citizens' comments on resolutions.
Thank you. I declare citizen comment on resolutions to be open at this time. Anyone like to address any of the 4 resolutions on the agenda at this time? The microphone is yours. Please just state your name and address, please. Anyone wishing to speak to us concerning the resolutions at this time? Again, anyone listen to us? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mrs. Philbrook. I didn't look at the microphone area. I apologize.
Joanne Philbrook, Norwich Town. I'm totally confused. I think this has to rank up among one of the most poorly executed presentations I have seen recently. I was going to applaud Mr. Salamone on his fiscal prudency, but then it all got shot to you-know-what.
Are you speaking on the resolutions, please?
Yes, the resolutions number 3 and 4.
Okay, thank you.
The ARPA money.
Thank you for clarifying.
So I think you're all aware that as of Thursday, the federal government is reaching their debt ceiling of $13 trillion and is going to have take extraordinary members. So my question is, and if somebody could answer it for me at some point in time, this money is guaranteed by the federal government. So if they go into default, the city of Norwich is still going to get $28 million in ARPA funding.
The funds are already received and were received a long time ago.
Okay.
They're in our accounts.
So they're earning interest as we speak?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel better. The only other thing that I would like to, I don't see anything about the addressing the opioid issue as far as personnel is concerned. Perhaps I'm missing something. But again, on a personal note, I would like to just share with you my feelings that the American Rescue Plan money, it's not like winning the Mega Millions. 1 million plus American citizens died because of COVID. This is blood money. Let there be no doubt in your mind. This is blood money. And it's our one shot, our one bite of the apple. So we must use extreme caution and fiscal accountability. Somebody brought it up before. You've got all these new programs and positions, but once the money is gone, how are we going to fund it going forward? So I'll leave you with those thoughts. If someone could get back to me, I would appreciate it. It's a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address us under citizen comment on resolutions at this time? Anyone else address the council at this time on resolutions before us? Anyone else like to address the council at this time on resolutions before us? Seeing no one else, I declare the comment closed. Thank you.
Number 1, relative to an appointment to the Youth Service Advisory Board.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to bring this resolution forward. Alderman Singh, is there a second? Alderwoman Berto, is there discussion on Resolution 1? Just for the benefit then of the general public, on Resolution 1, the person being appointed as a regular member of the Youth Service Advisory Board is Gerald Dillenbeck. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes. The resolution adopted on a 6-0 vote. Thank you.
Number 2, relative to a reappointment as an alternate member of the Inland Wetlands Watercourses and Conservation Commission.
Thank you. A motion, please, to bring it forward. Alderman Singh, second. Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? Alderman Singh.
I just want to thank Michael Dan for, serving in this capacity. And he's I think already serving in Commission of City Plan. as well. So I just want to thank him for giving his time to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I would also add my thanks to him as well. I spoke to Michael when he was considering being reappointed Commissioner on our city plan. He has been a very valuable member there for many, many years, and we're grateful to have his continued service. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto,
Yes.
Alderman Singh,
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf,
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia,
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom.
Yes. Motion is resolution is adopted on a 6-0 vote. Thank you.
Number 3, relative to approval of New American Rescue Act allocations.
Motion, please, to bring this forward. Alderwoman Berto, second. Alderman Grant Neuendorf. Is there discussion on Resolution 3 at this time? President Pro Tem, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone action on this item until our second meeting in February, which is the 21st. And I would ask that the city manager arrange for a workshop similar to what we did with the ARPA 2 allocation, so that we may hear in maybe a more meaningful and less restrictive environment how community members feel about this new list of allocations.
Thank you. If I may assist, are you looking for the workshop specific to that date when it comes back before us, starting like at 6 o'clock that evening or 6:30, or a time certain prior to that?
Well, I would like for us to have the workshop prior to our council meeting on the 21st, if that's what you're asking. It does not have to be on the day of our council.
Okay, understood. As long as the city manager has that, we'll schedule that and get that worked out. And get that notice out to the public. Is there a second to the motion to postpone this Resolution 3 to the 21st? Second, Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion on the motion to postpone? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto,
Yes.
Alderman Singh,
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf,
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia.
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom.
Yes. The motion to postpone Resolution 3 passes on a 6-0 vote. Thank you very much. Again, it is postponed till the 21st of February.
Number 4, relative to amendment of existing American Rescue Plan Act allocations.
A motion to bring Resolution 4 to the floor, please. Alderman Singh, second by Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? President Pro Tem.
Mayor, I'd like to make the same motion on Resolution 4 as I did on number 3, to postpone until our second meeting in February on the 21st, and also have this be the subject of the same workshop that we discussed in Resolution 3.
Thank you. Is there a second? Alderman Singh, second. Again, does everyone clearly understand we're looking at a workshop to consider discussion on both these items? If so, thank you. Is there further discussion? The motion postponed. Seeing none, roll call.
Alderwoman Berto,
Yes.
Alderman Singh,
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf,
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia.
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom.
Yes. At this time, I would like to take the personal privilege to welcome our new state representative, Alderman Terrell Wilson, who I had discussed him still attending our meetings, and thank you for showing up. We look forward to you still being an active member in the community in the new role and a liaison for us, which would be much appreciated. Thank you. At this time, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Alderwoman Berto. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto,
Yes.
Alderman Singh,
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf,
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia.
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom.
Yes. Motion to adjourn passes 6-0. Thank you all.